Nigeria's president now isn't only a drug criminal, but potentially someone who potentially has committed identity theft. Right? This issue is in court now in Chicago and in Nigeria. And I just think it's amazing that for more than 30 years, he's somehow been able to sort of get away with all of this without being asked these questions. I think this is the first time these feet are actually being put to the fire. It's a pity that under Nigerian law, he was actually able to be sworn into office before these legal challenges could actually be completed. But I guess someone has to do the job. So here we are. The executive controls the money of the judiciary. There's a very bad habit of delivering this thing called justice by technicality. So in the case of his educational qualifications and his failure to declare an additional nationality, which was also another perjury on the electoral declaration, what the court basically said was, oh, well, the way this evidence was submitted didn't meet this process or that process, therefore we're not admitting it, we're striking it out. So basically, that decision wasn't made on the merits of the case, it was made off the back of a technicality. And even more farcically, in my opinion, the judgment that was made regarding the fact that he had, forfeited money for heroin trafficking, he had involvement in heroin trafficking. What the court said basically was, it was his bank accounts that were sued by the US government, I guess, using the framework of a US civil asset forfeiture, technically is true. But obviously, you and I know that's a legal technicality, because obviously a bank account is not a standalone entity. There's an individual behind it. So what the Nigerian Appeal Court said was the bank accounts in the name of Bola Tinubu committed the crimes and not the man, Bola Tinubu. So basically, the president's bank accounts are guilty of drug trafficking, but not the man, not the president. The president. I personally think that's a ridiculous judgment, but here we are.
David, we have only a couple more minutes, but I wanted to ask you about the documents the FBI here in the States, of course, now says that they're going to release on President Tinubu, and your role in helping that to happen.
Yes. So shortly before the election, I'd actually tried to get hold of the documents in Tinubu's FBI file, because I know for a fact anyone who has ever been the subject of a U.S. federal investigation does in fact have an FBI file. Yeah. And in response to the FOIA, the FBI said, because of privacy considerations, we're not going to give you this information. He's a private citizen. So after the election, which he purportedly won, he's no longer a private citizen. He's now a public official. So we sent, in conjunction with a gentleman called Aaron Greenspan, who runs a website called plainsight.org. You might be aware of it. He's based in San Francisco. We sent off another set of FOIAs, this time to the FBI, the CIA, the State Department, the DEA, the IRS, and the U.S. attorneys. And they initially stonewalled. So we went to court, right? So myself and Aaron, in conjunction with a lawyer whom we were able to get to work pro bono. So in the initial submission from the respondents was that potentially this was going to drag on to like 2026. And then a couple of weeks ago, pretty much out of nowhere, I didn't see it coming. It was, I think, Friday, September 8th, I think it was. Then I got a message from Aaron, and there had been a new filing in court. And basically all 6 US government agencies, that's the FBI, the CIA, the DEA, IRS, the State Department, and the US attorneys, basically said, we're going to give you everything you're asking for. And even went into further detail. The FBI said they've identified 2,500 pages of relevant information on Bola Tinubu, which they're going to release at the rate of 500 pages a month, starting from October. To put that in perspective, Malcolm X had about 2,400 pages in his FBI file. So what on earth does the FBI have on someone who is apparently Nigeria's sitting president now that makes it up to 2,500 pages of material? I think everyone would love to know. So I'm pretty much waiting with like bated breath. I think everyone in Nigeria is at this point to see what on earth it is that the law enforcement agency in America has on our sitting president. So I guess we're about to find out. Right. So long story short, I've been on this since last year. You obviously know that I published a story. I did a documentary, and in the process of trying to get information from the DEA, the FBI, CIA, the IRS, the State Department, and U.S. attorneys, I kept running into a brick wall because they kept saying he's He's a private individual, privacy concerns, blah, 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 blah. So it wasn't until after he was actually declared winner of the election that I could then actually, you know, send a proper freedom of information request, which they would have to action. So which we did in March, and so I did that in collaboration with Aaron Greenspan of Plainside.org. Now, after sending that FOIA, the expectation was that since this person is now a president-elect, they would obviously have to honor the FOIA. Instead, they got back to us saying they're not going to honor the FOIA because of this thing called privacy concerns, and it made no sense to us. How can you invoke privacy concerns for someone who is a public figure, who's not a private individual? So we decided to test this in court. So in collaboration with Aaron, so Aaron actually filed the lawsuits, but I basically paid all the filing fees and whatnot. So we basically filed this lawsuit jointly. So we sued 6 U.S. government agencies. We sued the FBI, we sued the CIA, the IRS, the DEA, the State Department, and U.S. attorneys. Initially, when they got back to with their initial response in courts, I think this was in July, they had mentioned something about 2026 being the potential date for resolution. So I didn't really think much was going to come of it so soon. And then on Friday, I was in the shower. Roughly around this time on Friday last week, I was in the shower and I came out of the shower and I saw a message from Aaron on my phone, and he was like, "I have very good news." And I thought, what on earth could it be? Then he sent me a document, and I opened it, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing, because essentially all 6 agencies which we had sued all said one by one they're going to honor the FOIA. I didn't see it coming. It came out of nowhere. I'd love to take the credit for it, but the truth is, we don't really know why. It really came out of nowhere, and they just sort of dropped it on us. Hey, we're going to honor this FOIA after all. After initially opposing it and talking about 2026 potentially being the date for it in court. So the official filing date was September 11th, which was yesterday, Monday. So I had to wait till Monday before obviously, breaking the news, So I contacted Samuel of People's Gazette. I showed him all that. So that's pretty much where we are now. So there's potentially, so the FBI in the response stated that they've identified 2,500 pages of relevant documents relating to Bola Tinubu. Bear in mind that both Pablo Escobar and Malcolm X, who were 2 people of extreme interest to the FBI, had roughly that amount of document pages in their FBI files, right? So again, it begs the question: what exactly do these agencies have on this guy? Who exactly is this guy? And bear in mind, that's just the FBI alone. The State Department, the CIA, the DEA, IRS, they also have their own dossiers, and they've also said that they're going to honor the FOIAs and release these documents at the rate of between 300 and 500 pages a month. So, and this apparently starts from October, which is next month. So, I'm kind of like you, kind of like anyone else at this point. I'm just looking forward to see what's going to be in those documents. I've been wanting to see what is in these files for years. I've been trying to get access to these files since last year. But finally, it looks as if, the quest may be at an end. What we don't know is to what extent they're going to redact a lot of these files, because I know, especially when it comes to like the CIA and the DEA, where there's intelligence operations potentially involved, a lot of it is going to be redacted. But nonetheless, this represents a lot of progress. And dare I say, no Nigerian journalist, living or dead, has ever come this close to actually unraveling who exactly this guy is, what the deal is between him and the US government. So I take a certain amount of professional pride in that. But over and above that, I think Nigeria, being that this is a country of 200 million people or so, I think Nigerians deserve to know who their supposed president is and what interests he represents. So, again, I'm not exactly sure why the decision was made. It was completely unexpected, but we don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I'm very happy with the decision. So, roll on October.